Doomsday, Glasgow, April 3rd, 2008. Like so many epidemics before, the loss of so many lives began with a single microscopic organism, the Reaper virus, spreading among the population of Glasgow like a common cold. There was no stopping it, no cure, no vaccine. It claimed the lives of thousands. In attempt to quell the outbreak, martial law was implemented, roadblocks set up, curfews enforced. The airports, seaports, and borders were closed. Scotland was placed under quarantine. The people were ordered to stay in their homes, to avoid travel, avoid contact, to sit it out and wait for help that did not come. The UK government decided to build a containment wall on the borders of Scotland, isolating it from the rest of Britain, and also the docks, airports, and bridges, preventing it from spreading. With SAS teams evacuating the last of the healthy survivors, a Scottish woman begs soldiers in a helicopter to rescue her daughter, suffering from a wound in her right eye during a riot. A soldier sacrifices his place in the helicopter to save the girl. The mother hands a soldier in the helicopter a letter so her daughter will remember who her mother is. The little girl is transported out of the quarantine zone. The quarantine wall stood 30 feet high, clad in steel armor plating, spanning 80 miles east coast to west, cutting Britain in half. Coastal waters were mined and patrolled. The skies were declared a no-fly zone. Orders were given to shoot down any aircraft in violation of the quarantine. The idea was simple. Nobody came out and nobody went in. Those abandoned within the quarantine zone were left to die. Social order decayed along with the corpses. The streets ran with blood as the people fought to stay alive. Bodies burned in the thousands. Looting, rape, and murder became rife. Fire spread as the cities were plundered. And just as the government had turned its back to the hot zone, so the rest of the world turned its back on Britain. With hundreds of thousands unemployed, homeless, and destitute, the situation has reached a breaking point. It now remains only a matter of time before the laws of nature seek to redress the balance. London shipping docks, 2035. Now DDS is on a slave trader raid. An eyeball is scanning the area. It's being controlled remotely on a wristwatch worn by Major Eden Sinclair, the little girl saved in the initial evacuation, now grown up and a DDS soldier. She now has a synthetic eye with optic technology to replace her missing one. Two smuggler leaders, Pinstripe and Richter, enter a large cargo ship. The DDS leader, John Michelson, tells his team he wants him alive. He is the biggest slave trader in the city. The team quietly swarm into the ship. Sinclair steps out holding her gun ready and advances forward. Seeing her, Richter orders her to get back, but she ignores him and continues forward as he steps back with his captive. Both Richter and Michelson are screaming at her to not shoot, but she continues forward, gun still aimed. Then Richter stumbles from an object on the floor. He accidentally triggers the shotgun. Half of Michelson's head erupts in a splatter of blood. Startled at what happened, Richter looks up at Sinclair. She plugs several rounds into his body. Later, Domestic Security Chief Captain Nelson arrives at the scene. Sinclair is sitting down looking at the letter/envelope her mother handed the Solider many years ago. She then places the synthetic eyeball back into her eyeball socket. Nelson cringes. He can never get used to the sight of that. Nelson wants to know what happened there. She hands him a disc from her wrist watch that recorded the whole event. He takes the disc to be viewed later. He tells her to go home and get some rest. DDS police are on a routine drug raid in an abandoned building now populated by the homeless. The police officers kick open a door of a room and behold a ghastly sight. Several people lying down, their skin covered with open sores, blisters, some barely awake. The repulsive lesions and sores are similar to the Reaper virus. The leader orders them to get back. British security headquarters, Prime Minister Hatcher arrives by elevator and is greeted by his right-hand man, Michael Canaris. He informs Hatcher of the routine drug raid and the discovery of the infected victims. Canaris confirms it's the Reaper virus, it's back. Nelson, who was called in for a national emergency, arrives at the building. Several British leaders have gathered in a conference room including Hatcher, Canaris, Nelson, and Jane Harris. Jane lays out a plan to contain the virus by flooding canals north of the capital, blockade all bridges and rail links in and out of the city, known as the Doomsday Contingency Plan. Containment is their absolute priority. They must implement martial law now, keep the people off the streets while they secure the blockade and set up medical stations. Only then can they begin the evacuation. But Nelson warns them that while confining the citizens, throwing a killer virus into that mix will create massive chaos, especially once infected bodies start mounting. Panic will hit the populace. Disorder will escalate. Looting, rape, murder, the death toll will be unimaginable, and there would be nothing the government could do about it. Hatcher requests a private meeting with Nelson. They are joined by Canaris. They reveal to him confidential information. A military satellite has been performing surveillance over Scotland for the last 30 years. For many years, it revealed only the expected: empty cities, deserted streets. That is, until 3 years ago, they detected people on the streets of Glasgow. They figured if there are survivors, then there must be a cure, and they want to get their hands on it. They already have a team standing by. They just need someone to lead them. Nelson is appalled that they'd known this for 3 years and just swept it under the rug. Canaris and Hatcher order Nelson to pick someone to lead the team through the walled-off country. Nelson chooses Eden Sinclair to lead the team. He provides her intel and emphasizes to her that secrecy is vital. He warns her that there will be no rules, no backup. He drops her off. Canaris gives her intel on Dr. Marcus Kane. He was leading research on the virus when the gates were closed. He was trapped inside the hot zone. His lab was located in the quarantine compound in Glasgow. If anyone was capable of developing a cure, it was him. He recommends she start at that lab and pick up the trail from there. Other team members include Sergeant Norton, Sinclair's deputy, Dr. Talbot and Dr. Ben Sterling, medical scientists, and several DDS troopers. The gate opens. Both APCs enter into the unknown. Heavy rain pouring down. Behind them, the DDS staff weld the gate shut. Entering the quarantine zone, they gaze at nightmarish landscapes of dilapidated buildings and stranded vehicles in ruin, skeletons of victims from long ago. As they travel down the dark road, the APC is jostled. They stop to investigate. Outside, they see hundreds of cattle, one squished to a bloody pulp they had just run over. At his lab, he dug in with a bunch of stranded soldiers. They held out at St. Andrew Hospital as long as they could. He kept up regular reports, but eventually their frequency reduced to nothing. Morality had abandoned the people, fires spread, power supplies dwindling, food and water running out fast, distant cries of pain and anguish in the night. They begin to feed on each other. While searching a hospital for survivors, they are ambushed by a group of marauders. Norton and Sterling escape, but the team suffers heavy casualties. Sinclair and Talbot are captured by a gang of brutal cannibals, led by the power-hungry Soul. Sinclair is interrogated and tortured by the gang's leader, Soul. His lover and assistant, Viper, watches. Soul deduces that if she came over the wall, then she must have planned on getting back. He considers Sinclair as his passport to the Promised Land. Before leaving the cell, he orders his guard to ensure she remains alive. All the marauders are having a celebration: loud music, street performers, pole dancers, dirt bike riders, and the DJ introducing Soul as he appears on stage. Dr. Talbot is barbecued alive before the entire survivor population and then eaten. During this ritual, Sinclair manages to escape from her cell and comes across Kane's daughter, Callie, who is also in prison. Sinclair sets her free on the promise Callie can lead her to Kane, since he is Callie's father. While fleeing, Sinclair is confronted by Viper. They engage in a vicious battle with swords and Eden beheads Viper. Callie takes her to a nearby waiting train. After meeting back up with Sergeant Norton and Dr. Sterling, they proceed to make their escape via a train driven by Joshua, Callie's friend. While on the train, Callie informs them that Soul is his son, who he has been at war with his father. The train takes them to the mountains where they take a shortcut through a hidden military facility to the castle where Kane dwells. They are surrounded by Kane's medieval soldiers and taken as prisoners. Kane informs them of the truth. There is no cure, just people with a natural immunity, and sentences her and her group to death. Sinclair tells Kane the Reaper virus is back, but they can burn in their own fire for all he cares. Sinclair is forced to do battle with Kane's executioner, Telamon. Meanwhile, Guard visits Norton and Sterling's cell. They overpower the guards, locking the guards in the cell. They break into an ammo vault and confiscate some grenades along with other weapons. After a long, hard-fought battle, Sinclair kills Telamon. This angers Kane, and he orders the prisoners be executed now. But then sections of the castle explodes by the hands of Norton. As explosions continue, the four of them battle their way out of the castle. On horseback, they retreat to an underground facility and find a Bentley in storage. Sinclair and others decide to use the Bentley in an escape, but Norton is killed by Kane's men in the process. In the Bentley, they race back to the quarantine wall, confronting a long, high-speed road battle with Soul's marauders. Saul attempts to hijack the Bentley, but while he is on the roof, Sinclair plows the car through a roadblock bus, decapitating him. Using a GPS cell phone also taken from the facility, Sinclair summons a government gunship and hands over the cure to Canaris, the immune survivor Callie, from whose blood a vaccine can be replicated. Canaris, who arrives with the gunship, shares his plan with Sinclair to withhold the cure for political reasons and invites her back to London. But Sinclair chooses to stay behind instead of returning to London. Sinclair goes to find her old home located at the address on the envelope her mother had left her. Nelson, having been given the envelope by Sinclair before she left on the mission, finds her there. Sinclair provides Nelson a video of her conversation with Canaris, which she recorded with her cybernetic eye. Nelson takes the recording back to London and airs it publicly, exposing Canaris' plan to hold back the cure. Sinclair returns to the location where she and her team were first attacked by the cannibalistic tribe, and presenting them with Saul's severed head, is cheered as their new leader.